What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fantasy Addiction Network. In this video, we are breaking down the game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos, looking over the afternoon and evening games on the slate. Already gone through all the morning games, and some good news in this one. As of Friday, we see that Noah Fant is on track to return, so giving an additional weapon for the Broncos offense here. Not sure it will help too much in terms of actually winning this game, but good news for fantasy. We definitely missed Noah Fant, considering the current tight end landscape. Would be really nice to have Fant back. So good on that. Now, in terms of how this game is slated to go, Vegas sees this one 46-point over/under, and the Chiefs are favored to win by about 10 points, 9.5 right there. The Chiefs definitely have been pretty dominant on defense, with the exception of the game against the Raiders. They've been pretty stout overall. Number 23 in points allowed for quarterbacks. A little bit easier against the run, number 13, but have been very stout against opposing wide receivers at number 28 and average against tight ends at 22. So the Broncos have been incredibly difficult to beat on the run, running through the ground. They're number 30 right now in terms of points allowed for running backs. Now, AJ Bouye is back, so look for them to be a little bit stronger against the pass as well. But again, this is the Kansas City Chiefs we're talking about. So I'm not really ever that concerned about a matchup, pretty much ever. So in terms of who we're starting, we're going to throw Mahomes out there. Now, I know some people are anxious and wanting to throw Le'Veon Bell out there after the way we saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire run last week. I'm not benching Clyde in this matchup, even against a tougher Broncos run defense. I mean, the Bills were a good run defense, and he ran all over them. So the real question is, what will be the touch split between Clyde and Le'Veon? At this point, we don't know. I would imagine that they will ease Le'Veon into the lineup. They're not going to go out and give him 25 carries or 25 touches in the first week here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still running strong. It's not like they signed Le'Veon Bell just because Clyde Edwards-Helaire was doing terribly. I think this was more of an indictment on the backup running back options, guys like Darwin Thompson and Darrell Williams, who haven't looked that good ever since the start of the year. The Chiefs were banking on having Damian Williams, and then he opted out. So this was, in my opinion, this was more of a replacement for Damian Williams than it actually is an indictment on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, that will remain to be seen. What also remains to be seen is how good Le'Veon Bell actually is. It's been a while since we've seen him be dominant for football in general, and especially for fantasy, going on the wasteland of Adam Gase's New York Jets. Hard to really gauge whether or not he is good. So I think he's still fine. I think at some point in the season, you're going to be pretty happy having Le'Veon Bell. But this first week, I'm not throwing him out there unless I absolutely have to. Tyreek Hill, you're starting him every week regardless of matchup. Travis Kelce, of course, you're starting him. And I think you can start the Chiefs defense in this one. Yes, the Broncos are a little bit healthier, but Drew Lock is prone to, just say F it and throw it deep down the field. And I think that this could be another game where we saw him struggle against the Chiefs last year. Granted, that was a game in the snow in Kansas City. And the other thing to note too, one thing I definitely have to recognize is up to this point, the Chiefs have struggled in their matchups against divisional teams. We saw them almost lose to the Chargers, had to push that game into overtime. We saw them lose to the Oakland Raiders, so maybe the Broncos can continue that trend. I'm not banking on it. Nothing against the Broncos. I like the Chiefs a lot better as a team. But hey, that's definitely in the realm of possibilities. Now, Demarcus Robinson, I have him in your second guess column here, but I think you could start him in a pinch. I don't think he's going to really give you a massive ceiling, but taking over that Sammy Watkins role, we saw that it is still Demarcus Robinson and not Mikko Hardman. I don't know what Mikko Hardman has to do to convince Andy Reid to put him out there more, but Demarcus Robinson playing well, led the team in receiving yards last year over Tyreek Hill. I don't think that's going to happen again this week, but Demarcus Robinson is definitely a decent wide receiver league 4 type play based on how deep your league is or how many injuries or bye weeks you're sustaining. Demarcus Robinson is definitely a guy to keep on your bench and throw in if you have an injury, or maybe just go in and plan as him as your flex. So definitely don't hate him this week. Mikko Hardman's a lot harder to trust. No pun intended there, but we see, anytime he's been given this opportunity, he really hasn't done much with it. Have some really good games where he gets a bunch of fantasy points on 3 touches, and then he'll have a goose egg like he did last week. So hard to trust him right now until we see him actually start getting more consistent targets from Mahomes. On the Broncos side, now I guess the other question will be, are we trusting Melvin Gordon again versus Philip Lindsay? Lindsay played in Gordon's absence last week. He did admirably. It wasn't a terrible start by any means, but he didn't really add anything to the passing game as we saw Melvin Gordon do through the first couple weeks of the season. So even if this is a closer split to like what we saw in week 1, Gordon was more involved in the passing game. And I think that, again, they're going to continue to ride Gordon out as long as they can. They're paying him more. And, even if Lindsay is on the field more, I think Gordon ends up seeing more of the high leverage situation. So if I have to choose who I'm starting between Gordon and Lindsay in fantasy, I'm going to roll with Melvin Gordon this week. Haven't heard anything in terms of league suspension due to his DUI. That might come down after this season, but as it stands right now, Melvin Gordon is going to be active this week, and I'm going to be playing him. Noah Fant, as we mentioned, hard to really ignore what he had done up to this point. If he's healthy, I'm playing him. It looks like he's healthy, coming in with a full practice today. So let's get Noah Fant back out there into our lineups. Everyone else to me is kind of off limits. As we mentioned, the Chiefs are one of the most stout teams against opposing wide receivers. So Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, both guys that have been performing pretty well up to this point, but I'm not excited about this matchup at all. If you have to, I guess I would start Patrick over Jeudy, but that feels wrong, even though Tim Patrick has had 3 good fantasy weeks in a row. Jeudy had a stinker last week, but hopefully you don't need to rely on either of these guys in a tough matchup against the Chiefs. Drew Lock, we're not playing against the Chiefs, and we're probably never going to recommend playing a defense against the Chiefs as long as Mahomes and these guys are healthy. So that one's pretty easy for me. I don't think the Chiefs struggle on this one. I have them winning 27-15 and covering their 9.5 point spread.